So in order to adapt a book series like Dune to the big screen, you can't just follow the plot page to page. A large portion of the story takes place in a teenager's head, so the director and screenwriters had to get a little creative if they wanted to make this work. And it starts off perfectly by introducing Chani and her desert world under oppressive rule by the Harkonnens. I just wish there was more of that type of creative liberty taken. But that scene was a good indication the people behind the scenes were top of the industry. From the second the movie started till the end, the visuals, acting, and audio, all crazy high quality. They weren't playing around, going straight for the masterpiece classification. Some moments, and the way the plotlines play out, may come off as generic, but that's because the author, Frank Herbert, literally defined this sci-fi genre. It's gonna be pretty sad seeing new watchers believe the writers copied another space story, but it will inevitably hurt its reputation. Aside from all the pretty scenes and decent dialogue, the film was far from the greatest thing you'll ever see. It's a slow burn in terms of action, which is a good thing for a story like Dune, but the pacing just wasn't right. Unfortunately, there's too many themes to introduce and not enough time with a 2.5-hour time frame. This really gets distracting in the last part of the movie. Paul Atreides' biggest challenge seems like just a stroll on the beach sands, when this opportunity to take some time and problem solve your way out of the conflict could have been used to focus on other regions or different characters like Gurney Halleck or Thufir Hawat. Everything that happens is abrupt, and without going into too many spoilers, moments that are supposed to hit hard fall flat because there wasn't enough character development to flesh out anyone besides the main character, Paul Atreides, and his mother Jessica. If I'm to put my shoes in an average moviegoer, so much exposition would just fly over my head. But characters' basic motivations are conveyed well enough. At its core, it's a fight back or be killed type of story. The deeper layers of religion and philosophy are there if you look for them, however. Paul and Jessica have to hog the spotlight because they drive the plot, but a lot of secondary characters needed just a few more scenes, especially the antagonist, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. He was the best part of the movie for me, but there just wasn't enough of him. Good for the director Denis Villeneuve for cutting one of the main villains out from the books.
Denis is a bit obsessed with this, so who better to direct it?
One big bad and one nephew is already pushing it, if they're to be memorable at all. And geez, the Baron is memorable. They nailed him with a few minutes of screen time that he got. His nephew Rabin will have to play a much bigger role in the second part, if it gets made. He was non-existent for this first part. Just your run-of-the-mill second-in-command brute. Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto, Javier Bardem as Stilgar. Some crazy expensive casting, but it was worth it. Without even having to say a word, all three fit the roles so well solely based on appearance. The significance of spice harvested only on the planet Dune isn't explored nearly enough. And why is everyone on the planet freaking out over Paul? What exactly makes him special aside from being their savior? It just wasn't conveyed properly. I can't critique all these things too hard because a part 2 should be coming that'll delve deeper into these themes. But there's a huge plot twist left out, and what if we never get the second part? This movie will just be a bunch of pretty scenes with no payoff, but very pretty. Can't stress that enough. This is the best attempt I think anyone could do, and was very enjoyable. Dune is too heavy with ideas for a film. Doesn't matter if it's split into 2 parts. A 13-episode season for the first book could have worked perfectly, but we would lose out on quality without a movie-sized budget. Man, that would be great to watch. Just cut out all the A-list celebs, a bunch of discount actresses out there to take that Chani role away from Zendaya. But the fact that Zendaya is cast as a love interest Chani, I would assume there's bigger plans for this character than even in the books, who is just that, a love interest. Being Fremen automatically makes her badass like all the rest of her people in the desert. She just doesn't have a lot to do in the books. Dr. Kynes could have honestly been scrapped, but I'm happy this character wasn't. I can see this character being absorbed by the Duke or even Paul, but the spotlight like Kynes had was nice. Oh yeah, Dr. Kynes is a girl in this adaptation. That may complicate some origin stories, for reasons I won't talk about in this video, for spoiler reasons, but it's honestly fine. A very easy thing to write your way around. If the movie does well enough, hopefully HBO will order a series to adapt all the books, since they are the streaming service behind the Dune movies. But for now, they haven't even greenlit a second part for this film, though it is likely they'll get a good return on their investment. Despite its flaws, Dune is the best movie I've seen in a long time. Definitely worth checking out, and I can't recommend the books enough. They brought life back into this franchise, and if the second movie continues with this quality, people will talk about it. The hype is already brewing, not Harry Potter or Star Wars hype yet, but popular enough for at least a trilogy, right? A trilogy is what Dennis is aiming for if greenlit. Arrival is one of my favorite movies ever made, and Dennis still lives up to that standard. He knows how to capture a sense of dark adventure in him, and I'm happy he's steering this ship. Every scene feels extravagant, and he knew exactly the right cutoff point for this part of the movie. No unnecessary cheap cliffhanger. Just a solid, hopeful ending after all hell broke loose. We get a small view into the mysterious Fremen lifestyle, and entering their world of survival against the elements will be a good kickoff point for a second part. We didn't get a lot of sandworms in this movie, but it's coming. For the first time in years, I have an urge to rewatch a movie, but until the second part gets announced, I'll just cool off on getting my hopes up with this franchise. I'm sure we'll find out in the next couple weeks after initial ticket sales and stream reports come out, whether or not that's happening. A movie with tons of rewatchability, when's the last time we saw something like that? Enough is already set up here to make a great second half, but as for a third movie to make it a trilogy, I don't know. Way too soon to think about that, because a second film could wrap things up for good. A third film would just open up too many expectations for more and more films, because of what Frank Herbert writes, for what would be adapted for that. Seeing more and more films be pumped out would just make me more bummed out that a TV series with an HBO budget wasn't considered. I know a lot of book fans' biggest concerns that they would focus on too much action for this movie, when that's really only a small part of the story, and you don't have to worry about that. They handled the action really well. The movie makes it seem like a lot of visual effects are necessary with all the cool aircrafts and the fat old Baron flying around with his gravity suspenders, but there can be entire episodes with just dialogue and inner thought. Paul's brain is interesting enough without any need of expensive futuristic space battles. Frank Herbert made it easy for movie studios by making this futuristic take on a universe filled with minimal technological advancements. The people of the Dune universe almost unanimously hate and fear artificial intelligence because of all the trouble it caused thousands of years in the past. That's my argument, HBO. Please listen. Yeah, I'm happy the film came together as well as it did. And even with the pacing issues, no fault at Dennis or anything. You would have to take massive risks and make a film that may flop to make the source material work on the big screen perfectly. This movie is deserving of a whole spoiler-filled discussion, so let me know if you want to see that this weekend, when enough people have actually watched the film. If you have watched it, we would love to hear your thoughts. I know a lot of people were looking forward to it, wonder if it met all your expectations. More Dune videos coming soon, so see you guys then. Thanks for watching.